Welcome back to Arabella Block of the Month, my friends. We are going to do block number 6 today, the Patchwork Star. Are you ready? Let's get stitching. Well, welcome back to another awesome block of the month. That's right, we are still working on Arabella by Wing and a Prayer Design. Thank you all for joining me here. We are super blessed to have this awesome pattern by Tony and Jenny, and it is going awesome. We are in block number 6, so month number 6. If you're just now joining along, we are doing this awesome block of the month, 1 month at a time, with all of our guests out there that have the kits. If you didn't get your kit here at Stitchin Heaven, don't worry about it. We have patterns still available. We will probably run this again. It has been very successful. We've had lots and lots of wonderful quilters out there enjoying along with us. If you're kind of new to the party, we also have all kinds of other wonderful tutorials. So make sure you subscribe, smash the like button, follow along, check out our playlist. But let's dive right into this. Many of you have been following along month after month, so you know where we're at. We are on month 6. We're going to be making 4 of these that you see on the wall here. We still need to do 1 together. It's called the Patchwork Star, and the first thing I want to point out, this month's block finishes at 10.5 inches square instead of like we've been doing at 12.5 inches square. So when I first looked at my blocks, I thought, man, are those a little smaller? And I went and confirmed with the instructions, and they are. They're actually going to be seen out here later on in the kind of the cornerstone areas of the quilt center itself as we get there. So I have my pattern handy, of course, for color matching. I've got my pattern page, and I also have my printout using the exact same Timeless Treasure Batiks Wing and a Prayer did for us there, that it's called the Arabella. Now, today, or this month's block, is much easier construction than I would say maybe 3 and 4 were. We're just doing squares and half square triangles. So in your instructions, all your cutting, you're basically going to be using big squares and small squares. The small squares are what the units are going to be. They're going to fill in these pieces here in the block. And then our bigger squares, we're going to make combinations, and we're going to make the half square triangles, and I've already prepared ourselves. So let's listen closely. I'm going to give you the information here that follows along with your pattern and color guide. So we're going to be making half square triangles featuring fabrics 2 and 3, featuring fabrics 2 and 9, 6 and 7, and 5 and 8, and they will actually be A, B, C, and D the way I gave them to you. And it's really important because when we come down in here, and of course you can always refer here to your diagram as well, it really is nice the way this diagram is going to point out where each individual, so the A, C, and D, the B there, that's referring to the individual half square triangles. It shows you with their tones where they go based on your color chart, so it's very easy to follow along. And then I'll also point out while we're here, these arrows next to the word row 5, row 4, row 3, those are the directions which we're pressing all of the seams so that everything will nest. So we're really going to build this quite simply once we make all of our half square triangles. We are using the diagonal drawn line as a guideline. So we're going to do 1/4 inch on both sides. And I'm going to recommend you get all of your pieces done like I did for the first 3 blocks, and then go ahead and just set up for your 1/4 inch seam allowance. And excuse me, I said 1/4 inch seam allowance as I'm taking the guide off, of course. We're going to just follow that chalk line with our foot, and we're going to make nice little half square triangles where, and again, if it's chain piecing, you can even go ahead and do all of your half square triangles regardless of which fabric combinations you're using. So that's what I did. I found that was real easy, and I'll give you a few more tricks as the video progresses today on ways to keep yourself also very organized. But we do need to make these last groups of half square triangles together. So while I'm talking, I'm just going to be sewing these, and while I'm chain piecing them, I'm going down what would be the left-hand side of that chalk line on all of my pieces, like I said. And then once I have all of my pieces done, and I just used the little thread cutter on the machine, it works so nice and easy. And then we just need to make sure we're paying attention when we come back in, because we're going to now sew on the other side of that chalk line there. Okay, and then these will be trimmed down, so we have a little bit of grace. Don't have to sew perfectly. You can see I've modified my passion for precision shirt. I do have a passion for quilt making. Precision, I guess, is in the eye of the beholder. And I will tell you, I'm much more excited to be working with the design than I am with the accuracy, but I'm trying to slow down a bit, follow the instructions, follow the tips that are provided in our general patchwork instructions in this pattern, because there are some really neat ways I've learned already for bulk management, seam management, corners, that kind of thing, that I'm now applying in even the other patterns I'm designing for all of you as you follow along on the other tutorials. Amazing how I was able to just talk that entire time, isn't it? No, my family would agree that's not impossible. All right, let me just get these pins out of the way until later. And now all we're gonna do first of all is we're gonna protect our hand, and we're just gonna cut on the chalk lines. And I'm using my slotted trimmer today, and just fortunately my slotted trimmer is also long enough for that diagonal. So again, right on the chalk line and set aside. We're not gonna press these until we trim them. Or if you're using different than the slotted trimmer, you actually probably will be pressing them at this point and preparing them to trim. I just find the slotted trimmer so efficient that I really like to do as much of my work with it as possible. So now what we're gonna go ahead and do, let's make it so it's easy for you to see. I'll trim the rest of those in just a moment. But I'm gonna go ahead and lay, and I've been learning now, I let the thread just above the dotted line. We are trimming these to 2.5. Okay, and I'm gonna trim both sides. And then I, on the small ones, like to just kind of use my best dog ear capabilities. I'll show you that again here real quick. Trim, trim, and just kind of a little diagonal here, because I just find that with these small ones, it's pretty tricky for me and the big cutter to get into the little slots as we go there. So I'm gonna trim all of these down, and I'll be right back to talk about where to press these. It says exactly which fabric we're gonna press towards in the instructions as well. And again, that's gonna help with all of our accuracy. Let me get these trimmed. I'll be right back. Okay, so now with all of the trimming done, again, back down here in your half square triangle section of the instructions for block 6, talking about A, B, C, and D half square triangles, the last sentence in each one will talk about where to press. So I like to have the ones we're gonna press to in the air, and I'm just gonna press, and this is one of the things I like about a wool mat, is I can now start to work through here and just press. So I'm pressing A to fabric 3, B to fabric 9. Oop, going a little fast here. Okay, C, we're gonna press over to fabric 7, I believe. Yep, fabric 7, that's the blue versus the green. And then the last one, D, will press to this cool burgundy, or fabric number 8. And then again, I'm just laying them in my stacks up here, also labeled A, B, C, and D as I go. And then I've also put my pins into my squares, because at this point we're going to be able to just go ahead and assemble all of our blocks, but we're going to do them one at a time so that we make sure we have everything in our orientation, and we're just going to follow the diagram. However, I will say, once I followed the diagram, I found it was easier, once I confirmed I really had it correct, to just go ahead and then follow the block, because I really like the way that Wing and Prayer Designs has used the same color code and the tones and everything through here. But for me, I'm just a color guy, so I don't mean to be rude if I am and disagree, but once I made one, I just would pull it off the design wall, right? But again, make sure you have it correct. And then it was real easy to go through and just match the fabrics as we go. So now I'm just going to follow along here, and I, after doing a few, recognize the pattern to it. So in my fabric ones, I have in those top corner here, here, and here, and those are going to be split up by these A half square triangles. So you have one here and one here, tips kind of pointing up towards that bottom corner. You'll have another one here in the mirror image, and another one here in the mirror image. Okay, that makes things pretty nice and easy. So we've done this one, this one, this one, and this one, and these across here. Now I'm going to come over here and note that both of those run with that darker tone and parallel As you can see, parallel, darker tone. So now we've kind of built that outer edge. Pretty easy this way, and we're just going to keep building out our 5x5 block to start here. Okay, so now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to grab from fabric 6. I needed another fabric 3 in this row here. Got one of these, and these ones were a little trickier for my brain to see, the 6-7 combos, because the colors are similar. But what ends up happening is you can see through here, once I did the first one, I recognized, oh, this is really great, because the green tips, they're going to run in a diagonal here, and they're actually going to fill in row after row. So those 3 green pieces, or fabric 7 pointing at fabric 7, oops, I'm sorry, that was fabric 6. I double checked over here. So fabric 6 pointing at fabric 6, hopefully that's going to help you start to key in on where we're at. So then I just need my last piece of 3 here. Okay, so that's kind of that light side of our patchwork star block. Okay, we've got a couple of the fill-ins of the solid 5 fabric here. Then we're just going to watch our tones as we come through, and we're going to make sure that we have our first and our second as our mirrors. Fabric 9 fits in here, and will fit in here. And then these last pieces, just like before, everything's going to mirror in. Oh, I feel like I have that a little bit wrong. I do. Okay, because I wanted those fabric 5 corners to touch like we see here. And there we have all of our pieces. So much easier to see it here, working from fabric, but you definitely can follow the diagram. Once this was set, I'm just going to build this block as I go, and my formula by working right next to the machine is, and I'm going to start on the bottom, working my way up just so I don't accidentally bump any of this stuff. Grab this second piece here, and this, if this is then the column, the row, whatever we want to call it, fold it over, right sides together. I'm going to match it up, and oh, we need to put our 1/4 inch guide back on, and this has been really nice because I've marked it with the 1/4 inch tape. So now I can always put my guide right back where I've had it throughout the whole quilt project. Okay, and now we're going to do a nice gentle 1/4 inch across there. But because all of our seams are pressed in the same direction, I'm going to cut my thread, lay it down for orientation, bring my next seam over. So we're not going to the wool mat yet. And then I'm just going to go ahead over here. And you'll get to a rhythm where you can just drop it. I know that's my seam. I put it on top here and just keep on sewing. So we're going to sew on all 5 squares per row, and then we'll press it following the directions into the directions. So row 5 shows from this left-hand side over. So when that happens, I just rotate it, and I'm pressing technically from that left-hand side over. Make sure that everything looks nice. Let it rest for a second, and then bring it back into orientation where it belongs. Grab the next pieces up, combining 2 on top of 1 there, and this just allows a really nice visual and systematic rotation so that it's easy to not get confused, because you do not want to rotate your half square triangles because that'll throw off the design of the star. Everything else should be very simple construction for this process as we go. But you'll notice I keep returning to my design space where I have the block elements, and I'm working in an orientation which allows me to confirm that I'm continually grabbing the correct side of those half square triangles and then sewing them on. Okay, now row 4, which is where we're really at, working from the bottom up, wants us to come from the right sides over. So now I'm Still pressing from the side, but I didn't rotate my strip. Now, we're going to make all of our rows before we join them, just to make sure. It would be much easier to disassemble a little strip here if you needed to rotate. So before you sew these two together, please go ahead and join all the rest of these, as I'm going to do right now. Okay, now, and with all of our squares stitched together into the rows and our seams pressed into opposite directions so we can start joining, now I'm just going to kind of work from the top down, folding over, matching up the seams at the block union, and then again it's just another 1/4 inch seam allowance. And now I will go ahead and press after each time I do this. I feel like it just helps make everything a little bit more easy to handle and manage, especially if we get into that second and or third row. If you had not been pressing, sometimes it can be a bit of a challenge. If you need to line up any of those squares, little encouragement, do it, because it's all that we really have to line up in those points there. I'm just going to press I should say maybe press away from the new work, so pressing into the last row as I go. Let it cool for a second. But at the same point, do watch your orientation when you bring back in. Make sure you still have your light up here in that left corner. Rotate that on there. And then we're just going to go ahead and piece these out. And I do believe I mentioned at the beginning of the video, but these squares are going to be a little smaller than they have been in the last videos. These are now coming out at 10.5s, and you will have 4 of them. And these will be set aside because they're going to be cornerstones in our borders as we build out to that. And we start in on those in the next couple of months. So that's going to be really fun. We should have basically almost all of the patchwork necessary done for the center, other than a little bit more, looks like some flying geese units, some real fun stuff coming that way. Okay. Again, just double checking as I put this together, and you can see how simple the construction is. At least I felt like back in block number 4, there was so much going on and those shapes going every different direction, but it was really fun getting to sew together the center. I liked that, and now I can put that up on the wall when I need a little encouragement. I've been having fun, maybe you all are too, as the blocks develop, kind of laying them out, dry fitting them on the design wall, seeing how they all look together. I'll also mention we do have several other block of the months we feature from Wing and a Prayer Designs. We have Tonga Canyon coming up. I'm not sure at this point if they've already sold out or not on the pre-cut kits. And then of course we offer probably 6 to 8 block of the months every single month. And a lot of them are these really nice extended programs, but we're also putting in a couple shorter programs, a little bit simpler programs, lots of fun. All right, so we're just about there today with this one, and I'm so glad you've been following along. Like I said, it was really neat to find out so many people had purchased this block of the month from maybe even other locations or whatnot in the past, and now they have the support to put it together. So this is terrific. And I can see I was talking a little bit and pulled a seam, so I probably will take that last row out and make it as precise as possible, because I feel like I stretched that one a little bit much here, funny enough, as I chatted. So we'll just use this one as the example of how awesome they can come out and be. We're super excited to have all of these, like I said, working along, and we will see you next month, month number 7 on Arabella. And until then, please join us for all of our other wonderful tutorials here on Facebook and on live. Thanks so much for being here. We'll see you next time, and please stay well. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. It really helps support our channel. If you haven't subscribed, do so now. Hit the little button to be notified every time we go live or do a new video for all of you. And here's one from the past I think you'll really enjoy.